9. Facts about Henry Ford, the founder of the Ford Motor Company. Henry Ford was a well-known American industrialist and entrepreneur who founded the Ford Motor Company. He was born on July 30, 1863, in Dearborn, Michigan, USA. Ford is the eldest of 6 children, consisting of 4 boys and 2 girls. Ford was born into a farming family, but was not wealthy. His father, William Ford, was a native Irishman who emigrated to America during the potato famine crisis in Ireland. Ford's mother, Mary Ford, was born in Michigan and was the son of an immigrant from Belgium. So how did Ford manage to build his car business, if his family was a farmer? To build his car business, Ford must have interesting stories and facts from his life, right? Check out the discussion below. 1. Born during the North American-South American Civil War. Henry Ford was born in 1863, and, coincidentally, the American Civil War was raging at the time. The American Civil War, also known as the American Civil War, lasted from 1861 to 1865. When Ford was born, the war was in full swing and ended after just 2 years. There are 2 regions involved in this war, namely the North American region and the South American region. North America, led by Abraham Lincoln and Ulysses S. Grant, won the battle against Southern rebel forces led by Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee, who surrendered on April 9, 1865. This war made Ford and his family dislike violence and war. This makes Ford a man who often talks about humanity. 2. An interest in mechanics from a young age. Even though Ford was the son of a farmer, he was not very interested in farming. Ford tends to focus on the engine business. Ford's interest in cars began at the age of 12. At that time, Ford was spending his free time in a small mechanics workshop, which he had produced himself. Excerpt from Ford's official website: Ford first developed a steam engine for tractor plowing when he was about 15 years old. Then, in 1882, he apprenticed as a mechanical engineer at the Detroit Dry Dock Company. After completing his apprenticeship, Ford spent a year repairing the Westinghouse steam engine. 3. Henry Ford was a close friend of Thomas Alva Edison. Before Ford started his automobile business in 1891, he worked for the Edison Illuminating Company in Detroit, which was owned by Thomas Alva Edison. It was there that Ford met Edison, who later appointed him the company's chief engineer. Ford was assigned to head one of the city's lighting divisions. The Ford-led division had to be on standby 24 hours a day without interruption to ensure power flow throughout the city. Although he worked as chief engineer for a company owned by Edison, Ford always designed his own gasoline engines during his busy life as chief engineer. Then, in 1899, Ford left the Edison Company and started his own business. Despite this, Edison remained Ford's best friend until their death. 4. He invented his first internal combustion engine when he was chief engineer at Edison. When Ford was an engineer at Edison, he spent time and money experimenting with internal combustion engines. The success of this experiment reached its peak in 1896, when Ford succeeded in developing its first car. The first car with an internal combustion engine was called the Ford Quadricle. Ford took his first test drive on June 4, 1896. Also in 1896, Ford attended an Edison leadership meeting where he was introduced to Thomas Alva Edison. Edison approved the Ford car experiment. Operated by Edison, Ford. 5. Introducing the Model T, which has been a hit on the market. On August 19, 1899, he resigned from the Edison Illuminating Company and organized the Detroit Automobile Company with others, which went bankrupt about 18 months later. Finally, on June 16, 1903, Ford, with the help of 12 more people, founded the Ford Motor Company. It wasn't until a few years later, on October 1, 1908, that the Ford Motor Company introduced the Model T. It was very easy to drive, simple and inexpensive to repair, and cheap enough to buy. Thus, the Model T is selling well in the market. In 1914, sales of the Model T reached 250,000. In 1916, when prices fell, Model T sales totaled 472,000. By 1918, nearly half of the cars in the United States were Model Ts. Production of the Model T continued into 1927, with a final total production of 15 million units and a record 45 years of automobile production. 6. Automotive industry revolution. Along with the development of the Ford Motor Company, Henry Ford made many industrial breakthroughs. As reported by the history page, one of Ford's most famous inventions is the assembly line, also known as the production line, where the production technology of a car can be reduced from 12 hours for a car to 1 hour and 33 minutes for a car. Apparently, the breakthrough not only came from Henry Ford, the idea was also influenced by several of his employees. What's more, another feature of Ford is the salary of $5, $130 per Rs, $1,865,474 at today's exchange rate per day for its employees. Ford's $5 per day wage change took the industry by surprise. With this move, Detroit's best mechanics worked for Ford, bringing their people and skills to work and increasing the productivity of Ford's business. 7. He founded the Ford Aircraft Company. Apart from working in the automotive sector, Henry Ford's line of business is also said to have entered the aviation sector. Ford's start in the aircraft industry dates back to 1925, when Ford began acquiring the Stout Mintel Airplane Company. Ford's most famous aircraft is the Ford Trimotor, which first flew in 1926 and went into production that same year. Total production of the Ford Trimotor reached 199 units. Production was discontinued in 1933. At the same time, Ford's aviation division was shutting down due to declining sales due to the effects of the Great Depression economic crisis. 8. Racing enthusiasm. Ford's career in the automotive industry cannot be separated from the world of motorsport. Ford tried to race their Model T in 1909, and the car managed to finish early, though it was later disqualified. His car set another 1-mile speed record at the 1911 Detroit Fair. In 1913, Ford again tried to enter the Indianapolis 500 with a redesigned Model T, but Ford dropped out of the race and quickly dropped out of the race because of dissatisfaction with the rules of the race. 9. Ford is one of the most famous anti-Semitic figures. Despite his inventions and his role in the automotive and engineering industries, Ford was known for his anti-Semitic attitude and negative attitude towards Jews. This became clear when Ford published and promoted anti-Jewish conspiracy books, including the Protocols of the Elders of Zion and International Jewry. Ford promoted his anti-Semitic message through the Dearborn Independent, which he published. Many Ford articles were condemned by the Anti-Defamation League. Later, San Francisco attorney and Jewish agricultural cooperative organizer Aaron Shapiro filed a libel suit in response to anti-Semitic statements. This prompted Ford to close the Dearborn Independent in December 1927. In addition, Henry Ford was known to have an affair with Adolf Hitler, one of the greatest anti-Semitic figures in history. Hitler praised Ford's success in many ways, including its role in the auto industry.